Hey there, everybody. Good evening at about 9:05 p.m. November the 12th, Monday, almost halfway through November, almost Thanksgiving, almost the end of the year. What is up with that? It's crazy. So happy to, guess what, hop on with you on Instagram tonight. Hoping you're having an amazing evening. Let me make sure I'm okay here. Yeah. Okie doke. So I am going to hop on my topic for this evening. It's going to be something I hope that really relates to almost everybody out there. And if the stats are true, it should. About 75% of Americans are affected by what I am going to talk about tonight and my own personal journey. And that is everything thyroid, all the real deal about thyroid for me. Okay? So I just want to say as a heads up, I am not a doctor. I don't play a doctor on TV. I'm just a mom. Hashtag, I'm just a mom. Okay, so this is my personal thing and a bit about my journey, and I hope you love it. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you learn something. And please feel free to message me, get a hold of me. I have a blog on justafamilything.com that will give you lots more detail, and you might enjoy reading. And that has been posted, so you'll be able to see that if you want to go back and refer to some things that I talked about. So just as a big first step, about 6 years ago or so, I started noticing some of these really odd symptoms going on in my body. And I had just had our 10th baby, which, let me say, a lot of people, I know, I've had a lot of babies, and they've been a dream. I love every single one of them so much. And they were part of what I wanted to do with my life. I didn't know if I could have them. Of course, when you start out, you don't know how reproduction is going to work for you, and you don't know how your body's going to work. And that was just my prayer and my hope when I was a little 22-year-old. And so I was very grateful and had a good pregnancy. I'm trying to think. I think it was about 39 or 40. And little sweet Susanna was just a dream little infant. And let's see. I'm trying to see my note here. So I'm not sure exactly what that is, a request to be. Maybe she's trying to message me. Carol, if you have a question, maybe you're wanting to send a comment, okay? Let's see. Okay. So anyway, these symptoms were popping up, and Carol, I might be able to private message you, okay? And it was kind of scary. Like I said, you'll see some more details on my blog. You'll be able to see what actually happened, and you'll see some pictures. All that to say, my husband and I did a lot of research, and we could tell, of course, something was going on, and conferred with my amazing naturopath. If you don't know what a naturopath is, by the way, they're basically a more holistically minded doctor that attempts to work through nutrition and supplements and oils and more natural things to stimulate your immune system to fight whatever's going on. Okay. And so was working closely with my naturopath, and from there, we realized that we, had quite a battle on our hands, and that was part of what I'm wanting to get across about this time in my life, because I feel like there's a lot of people out there that have this kind of thing going. I sometimes call it a basket of troubles, and it can be any kind of thing. Last week we talked about black, white, and brown, and how we see each other, how we look at skin color, how we look at culture and ethnicity, and I got a ton of different responses, and it basically told me that it was obviously something that everybody could relate to, and that was a joy, and I'm so grateful for that. All that said, when it comes to this stuff, I feel like a lot of people are facing something in their health, and every time you talk to somebody, even when you hop on social media, you're always hearing so and so is going through this, and so had this happen. It basically is a universal type battle. And I think everybody sees it differently. Everybody looks at it differently, and everybody has all of the history they have from their families. And all that said, I am a really private person about getting into the nitty gritty of my health. And I really don't know how to explain that exactly about myself, but I just am. All that said, this is obviously not private. This is out there. Well, that has been a big part of my healing, getting to the point that I can share about it and give you all some ideas. Even if you're not facing something that relates to your thyroid, at some point in your life, you're most likely going to face that. And even though this is Mama Monday and it's kind of my mama thing, it really can apply to anybody. And in that way, I hope that it gives you something to hold on to. With the fact that my husband's a pastor and we talk to lots of different kinds of people, we're really, really positive that, you know what, pretty much anybody can be in this spot where they're concerned and they have things going on. Now, all that said, I chose to go with my naturopathic philosophy with the woman that I worked with because I wanted to give my body a chance to do well with a stimulated immune system. And that being said, again, when it came to the symptoms that I was presenting, my thyroid was acting up. It was too fired up and too fast, and that's called a hyperthyroid. And so that is actually not the most common thing to happen to thyroid, and I'm going to talk a little bit about why those things happen. Really, the more common issue with thyroid is hypothyroid, and that means the thyroid is sluggish and not acting at the speed that it should. It's just dragging. And truthfully, what's really crazy is you can go from one to the other. You also can exhibit some of the same symptoms in both. That's a clue, okay? Some of the symptoms look the same. Also, you can actually do some of the same things for each presentation of symptoms. And I do want to say that historically, universally, you'll find any medical doctor out there who will have to acquiesce to this. Usually, you can get some false positives and some of the typical blood lab work type thing that you can do when you're working with an allopathic doctor. And so all of that said, I chose to do what I could do for my immune system without going that route. And I did know there was a lot of false positives, false results when it came to that blood work. And again, that's a really personal choice. And again, when this first happened, I had to do something very, it was an emotional, gut-wrenching, mental thing for me. I had to dig really deep inside of myself and decide, you know what, this looks pretty gross and bad and tough, and it feels that way too. But in my case, and I want to give this to you for wherever you are, I looked around at what I had to live for and what I had to have a quality of life for, and that inspired me. I had this little baby, Miss Susanna is now a 6-year-old, and as an infant, you know, you have different kinds of infants. That's another video, but she was the sweetest, fluffiest, cuddliest little infant you ever saw, and she just was so inspiring for where I was then. She would never have known, I believe, obviously, that Mommy was having a tough time, and she inspired me to keep feeding myself, keep gaining nutrition, keep, you know, just deluging is the word I like, deluging my body and stimulating it and pushing it and saying, hey, you know what? In fact, I didn't put this on the blog, and I'm just thinking of it now, but my words, you know, had to change. I couldn't say, you know what, I'm really, really terribly sick, and it's terrible. It's just terrible, terrible, terrible. Everybody knows Eeyore on Winnie the Pooh. All the mamas out there, you know Winnie the Pooh, it's memorized. You can't be Eeyore and get through the body stuff. And I don't mean that you don't feel those things. And I don't mean that there's not compassion. I just mean that there's a battle on your hands. And I could feel that. I could sense that. I knew it was rubber meeting the road, so to speak. Okay, so this is kind of the outset of the story. And at this point, we went into just searching and praying and getting on our knees and just declaring lots of agreement between me and my husband. Agreement, that's a powerful thing too. Matthew 18:19 talks about it. Find somebody you love and trust and agree with them. If you have a terrible battle on your hands right now, no matter what kind of battle, follow Matthew 18:19. Write it down. Make a little agreement like you would if you were going to court. Okay, go get yourself a piece of really nice paper and type it out and sign it and say, okay, in Jesus' name, we're agreeing on this here deal. That's not correct grammar, but you get my point. Agree on what you're going through and say, okay, in Jesus' name, we too agree on the prayer that we have for this situation, no matter how terrible it looks. And I can tell you, oh, thank you so much. That is an incredible compliment. Thank you. I love it. Very sweet. You've got to get a hold of that in here. And that's kind of what I'm wanting to get across. I know at first glance you can go, ugh, I don't want to hear about a thyroid thing, whatever. Yeah, it's a physical symptom sickness thing, okay? But what I'm really digging towards is how we approach a battle, okay? I think I told you all of the background there about how I started feeling and knowing something was going on. Thank you a bunch there. So from there, we just started getting a plan, and we talked about agreement just now. So from the agreement, I started looking into basically the natural things I could do, and the allopathic options were really small. I also mentioned that on the blog. You can look there. And I wanted to keep my body intact. I wanted to, if at all possible, okay, that was my prayer. It didn't mean my options weren't open down the road if we had to do something differently. But for where I was, that's what I was hoping for. Okay, that's what Lorenzo and I both were agreeing about. And so everything natural system, complete system, thyroid support, that's what we were looking for. And that's what I just dumped down and on and in my body. Okay. If you would be a person who would want to know my natural protocol that I used, you can message me privately. I'll go over the tippy top of it, but it has evolved obviously since then. When I first began, it was really hot and heavy on a lot of different things, which I'll mention now, just some of the few. One of the very most important things that I did for my thyroid, and if you don't know where your thyroid is, it's right here. And actually, I need to unbutton my top button here, because then you can see. If my daughter's on here, she could testify to this, but my neck looks amazing now. And back when that happened, it did not. It was not looking amazing back then. It's a little butterfly shaped endocrine organ, and it's actually one of the master endocrine organs. And if you don't know about your endocrine system, it basically runs your body in every possible way, all the way from you having the strength to sit up off the floor, or getting up into a vehicle, all the way to your hair, skin, and nail health. It's the gamut. It controls all the function of your body in every way possible. And again, I'm not a medical doctor. I don't want to go through the whole entire scope of what it should do when it's working optimally. But suffice it to say, the tippy top of some of the natural things I did. Number one, that I think is so critical, and especially Momma Monday fans that are female, you must do a little bit of your own research, be your own health detective. That's a lot of my point about this video too. Please go research what you need when it comes to iodine. And in my case, I took iodine with an iodide component. Okay, and that was in a supplement called Iodorex. I highly recommend it. Be your own health detective and look it up yourself. There's an incredible thyroid doctor guy that I liked that I can recommend, named Dr. Brownstein. I really enjoyed a lot of what he said. I didn't do everything he said, but he has a really good hold on some of the natural protocol. And number one, iodine, how critical it is. How many of you have heard of iodine? Well, you hear about iodized salt, you hear about iodized processed food, okay? But iodine is a mineral, and we need minerals, especially females, okay? So if you Look up the health of Japanese women in the country of Japan. Guess how much iodine they regularly eat in their diet? Tons, okay? Probably 9 to 11 grams per day through seaweed and dark leafy sea vegetables. They get a ton of iodine naturally. Okay, that's harder to access here in the United States. Consequently, their reproductive systems have a much lower incidence of any kind of compromising immune system issues. And that is obviously one of the reasons, okay? With all of the radiation that we've had in the past 5, 10, 15 years in the world, obviously Fukushima is one of those in the Japan area. Those things travel along the ocean waves. They get into the atmosphere of the whole entire world. Iodine is one of those minerals that helps protect your reproductive organs, okay? That's why you'll hear about a radioactive type disaster, such as the one in Europe many years ago, actually, when I was a youngster. If there's a high radioactive exposure, then you'll see a couple generations down that'll have birth defects. Okay, so it's so critical that we have that mineral in our diet. And again, minerals should be in our soil where we grow our food, and then the food in the ground, the vegetables, fruit, etc., they should carry those minerals, but they don't anymore. And that's also another whole blog. Okay, but you have to have minerals because they move the lymph, which moves the toxins out of your body. Okay, so number one critical thing that I did that truthfully, in my case, and everybody's different, it moved me to a healthier, better feeling place almost instantly once I started it. And I would say in a matter of weeks. I can't recommend that enough. And really, if you're having zero symptoms at all, it's still critical. Okay, so that's one of my number one ideas. And another bit of the tippy top of the natural protocol would be something like a really good natural thyroid supplement. If you find one you like, I know one that I like. It's actually a Young Living supplement, but there's lots out there. And then something like a leafy green sea vegetable type thing, such as spirulina, is very, very good. Then getting into something like healthy fats and pasture protein. You want to cut out junk like processed, gross, carby junk. And ask my kids, ask my husband. I have never done that perfectly. I don't do it perfectly. In fact, I reward myself. It's not really a reward because it's not actually that great for you. But I, on purpose, occasionally don't eat what I'm exactly supposed to eat, because I would rather practice doing that once in a while without feeling guilty, because I feel like the toxic emotion of feeling guilty is actually worse for you almost than, hey, today I had an Oreo. Okay, and you'll find people that they just are so laborious about that and so guilt-ridden over what they put in their mouth that they don't realize that this next step I'm going to talk about, as far as your emotional health, it's even more important. Okay, so I'll get to that in just a second. Let me see. I'm thinking about any of the other natural things. That's just a couple. Tons of certain oils. Okay, I only recommend Young Living, but I probably have about a gallon by now. After 6 years, you know that essential oils come in little 15 ml bottles. I have probably about a gallon of Indiflex on my thyroid by now, and I just did that topically on my thyroid. Several others are really critical for thyroid and very supportive, such as myrrh and myrtle and lemongrass, and some of those are a little more expensive, and some of them are just absolutely dirt cheap. Okay, so you can find a gamut of what you can do for your budget and what you're willing to invest in. And let's see, that's pretty much the tip top of some of the physical things that I did. Let's see, detox baths were very important. I've talked about that on some of my winter wellness videos. That's really critical. Again, that's another opportunity to get more minerals in your body. And a lot of times when you're talking about something that your immune system is giving you a little talking to, and it's saying, hey, Jen, something's going on here. When that happens, a lot of times we've got a toxin load that's too high for our lymph system to move correctly. And you can divide it up into every single kind of issue you want to. It can be, oh, this is happening and it's my thyroid, or oh, this is happening and I'm having trouble with outdoor annoyances, as we say, as I say to my oil team of people. Whatever it might be, or my skin looks like so and so, what's happening? All those things, yes, they are different parts of your body, but really it's the same message, okay? It's the same message to you from you, okay? And you are the person in your body. And that's just pretty super amazing and critical for understanding how to battle something like this. Again, I think this battles anything. This is a battle plan for whatever you may be going through right now. So all that to say, after the natural stuff, then I delved into what was happening emotionally. Okay. So as I mentioned, we are a spirit, we have a soul, we live in a body. Okay. So think about this. If you move to heaven, okay, if I move to heaven right now, well, what's going to happen to my body? My body is going to do what? Bam, it's going to fall over on this table that's holding my phone, okay? It's going to fall over and I'm not going to be there. I'm going to be gone, okay? I will not be home. I'll be in my real home, of course, but my body and its function will be over. It just holds me. It's just my tent, okay? What I want to help plant in your mind, especially for a physical battle, is you are in your body. Okay. Thank you so much. You are the person who is being exhibited in your body. Okay. What that means is your body is just a reflection of you. So we can throw everything at the physical body possible, in my mom's phrase, everything but the kitchen sink. But that doesn't mean we're really getting to the root issue. And I didn't actually mention this on my blog, but there's a really great book called Toxic Emotions by Dr. Don Colbert. It's an older book. I think he published it probably in the 80s. And it is such a really great, yes, that's right, no matter what people think. It is the best breakdown I've ever seen of toxic emotion and how to address it. He also explains what happens in your physical body when you are experiencing some type of toxic emotion, such as when you're really, really angry, your stomach throws extra acid into it and into itself rather, and boils almost. And he goes through every kind of emotion you can imagine, even the positive, healthy ones. And so it basically gives the breakdown. Thank you very much. It gives the breakdown of what is going on physically when it's actually reflecting what's happening emotionally. Okay. All that to say, I had to do a lot of self-reflection, and I needed to answer some tough questions, be very honest with myself, and see where I was emotionally, things that were bothering me. I can go back now, and I actually forgot to say this in my writing as well. I can go back now to certain events that happened that felt traumatic for me and how they instigated that immune system response. And I think especially moms, I think we stuff a lot. It's obviously everybody, but I think we stuff a lot as we just function. We function because we have to function. And as we do that, I think we ignore, I think we table, I think we put things on the back burner when we actually do need to address what's happening. And that means being able to speak about it. That means possibly writing it out. I found a lot of healing through writing out things in a journal. Write the vision down and make it plain is a scripture in the Bible. And that was very powerful for me. Okay. Because as you write something down, not only what you are feeling, which is very healthy, but you begin that dumping process where you're dealing with what's happening. And then you can be writing down things you're hoping for, you're praying for. And that can be your conversation with yourself almost. And there's nothing weird about that. That's a really normal, healthy thing. Okay. So all the emotion stuff was basically my next big step. And I truthfully think it is as or more important than anything you can do physically. I don't think it'll help much if you're trying to exist on Coke and Cheetos. It's probably not going to help a lot. But I think even as important or more important is that you start addressing emotional health. And one of the ways you can do that is you get lots of good resources. You can start learning how to release emotions. There's actually a science to that. And I won't go into all of that. You can message me if you have questions about that. You can do that through things like essential oils and through certain kinds of reflection, as I mentioned with the journal. So that was also very critical. And then another step that was pretty important with what happened is something that, yes, exactly. Angela, that is an awesome, really, really great practice. Yoga is super, super important. I love it. I wish I was in your class right now, dear. I know you're amazing. I have loved doing it before when I've been able to. Very, very meditative and reflective. And by the way, the New Age movement, I guess I'll call it that, has always gotten credit for some of the benefits of yoga. But I do want to say yoga functions by meditation, and meditation, if you did not know, hello, that word was in the Bible before it was anywhere. It's in Joshua chapter 1, and it was very much the practice that God gave Joshua when he was about to face the giants of the land. And God basically told Joshua, hey, you've got to meditate on my law day and night in order to have good success. Okay? Meditation means thinking on, talking about, considering constantly something. Now, if you are around my kids, if you quiz them about this, you will be able to get some certain phrases from them that they've gotten from me through this journey that I had. I'll say certain things like, Rowan, did you know you're healthy and whole? And I'll say healthy and whole to them all the time. I'll say it at night when we put them to bed. I'll say, I love you, you're healthy and whole. Before they go out the door, or if I go out the door, if we happen not to be together, I'll say something like, you're safe and sound. I, on purpose, plant these healthy, life-giving words. And this is another outcome of this battle and other things that have happened in our life where you really purposefully start using your words. It's really pretty thrilling when you think about it, and you don't have to be, ostentatious or annoying about it, but it's just saying good words, guys. That's all. Guys and girls. I always tend to say guys, and I mean girls too. So anyway, so that's the natural stuff, the oil supplement stuff, that's the emotional stuff. And then something else really critical, hopefully I'm on time here. You've got to get the chemical junk out of your house, okay? Now, this is something you can find some incredible resources on right now on the internet, on social media. I highly encourage you to look at a Netflix documentary called Stink. That's the word of it. I mean, the title of it, Stink, okay? And it is, you need to watch it, okay? It's just basically all about the chemicals that we are ingesting and breathing and wearing and eating. I already said eating. They're everywhere, okay? And it's all about why they're around us and in our environment, how they, legally speaking, have been able to be permitted to be in our environment. And that can be a little overwhelming. I can tell you by the end of the video, you're going to go, ugh, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? I mean, you can't live in a cave somewhere, right? Okay, that's where the God Jesus factor comes in, okay? So don't be discouraged by that. It is overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. We just have to take it in pieces. And as I said, when I wrote about this, you've got to tackle the parts you know how to do and do them. And be content with that, okay? Because here is one of the things Lorenzo and I say a lot. I think we said it last week, actually. You have to do your natural and let God do the super, okay? Hello there. So you've got to do the natural parts you understand and keep seeking to understand and keep trying to gain wisdom, okay? And as you do that, then you can always expect as you pray that God's going to do the supernatural, because that's not your part. That's not our part. That's so incredible to realize. And that was very much a part of my journey here with my thyroid. I was doing everything natural I could possibly do. And I don't want to gloss over it. I don't want it to sound like, oh, this was just easy and this just happened. It's no big deal. No, it was really hard. And it had moments where I was so discouraged and so I was having a hard time, and I was very much, I was disturbed with my appearance. You'll see the changes in my appearance as healing and health have come from when it first began. If you go see it on my blog, you'll see some of the stages of that. And that was a huge, super huge thing for me to do, to post that. I can't tell you, that's basically taken me 6 years to get brave enough to post that. And I finally got to the place where I felt peaceful and I felt excited about, I felt victorious about, you know what, someone is out here who's going to need this. And I'm just going to be real, and I'm going to say this is how it was and this is what happened, and I don't even have to understand why. And I need to share it. And even just posting that today is when I actually went out and talking with you guys tonight. That's been a huge part too, of just making it to a different place and being grateful for where I am and where God's brought me, and where He's still taking me, because it's really not over. And I think that's another big lesson of my journey. It has been continuous, and I think it will continue to be that way. And truthfully, I don't really want it to stop, because it's held me more accountable for being grateful, and it's given me more reasons to be thankful every day for every single day. And it's also really lit my fire as far as helping other people know they have tools, they have things they can do, they have options, they can have hope. Okay, so that's a big part of my motivation. And I don't think I finished up on the chemical stuff, but the chemical stuff is probably as critical as all of the emotional work, and as critical as what you do naturally, supplementally, because the chemical load is also what's dragging down your endocrine system, where it can't release the toxins it's supposed to. There's something called an endocrine disruptor, and that's basically the chemicals out there that mimic hormones. Okay, and a lot of those in our country have been grandfathered in by the EPA, and there was an act called the Toxic Substance something Act, TSCA, I think, Toxic Substance Control Act. That's it. Okay, remember, I'm just a mom. Okay, I think that's it. TSOC, I believe, or CA. Anyway, that is in conflict with the EPA. And so the EPA can't truly regulate anything, because everything's been grandfathered in. And there's always, as always, a big money game, okay? And people getting paid for certain things and having an agenda, obviously, when it comes to that. So those endocrine disruptors and the chemical load are just devastating to the thyroid and the endocrine system at large. Okay, there's other organs for the endocrine system, but thyroid obviously is one of the master glands besides the pituitary. And all of that said, that's in simple things like laundry soap and dryer sheets are terrible. Fluorides in toothpaste, all the soap stuff, all the toxic yuck you can't pronounce on the back of those things. A woman usually applies 80 chemicals on her body before breakfast. Wow. It's terrible, guys. It's too much. It's just way, way, way too much. And as I said before, you can't control everything. You can't control the air and where you live, and what you may be around that has nothing to do with something you could change. But as far as what you allow in your home, what you clean with, I clean with one cleaner for my whole entire house. I use thieves cleaner, I use baking soda, I use vinegar. Sometimes if we have a tough job, you know what, sometimes it just has to go away. We do our very, very, very best, but we're just not really willing to do the chemical load. And we don't want to do that for our kids. Think about their immune system and their ability to handle toxins. It's so much more of a tender spot, still being built. Their immune system is still more fragile. So all of that to say, I think that pretty much covers most of the areas I wanted to talk about. So we talked about natural supplement oil stuff. We talked about getting rid of the chemical load and what we use in our house to clean. And then I talked about the emotional health that we have to pursue. Okay, so all that to say, I hope some of those things were really, really helpful for you. Again, you're welcome to message me and let me know if you have any kind of questions or anything I could help you with. And ultimately, our home is heaven. This thing's over. Our ultimate healing is heaven, right? But on the journey, we want to fulfill our mission. And you know what? To be here, thanks for the heart, Angela. It's really good to see you. On the way to when we move there, we want to fulfill our mission, right? And to be here and fulfill a mission, we've got to have a body, okay? And we've got to keep it healthy, inside and out. And I mean inside, emotionally, all the way to outside, physically. And one of my favorite sayings, love to say to my team, my family, all the people we get to talk to, if you have your health, you can have many goals. If you don't have your health, you only have one goal. So all that to say, hope you enjoyed all these nuggets and hope they can be a help to you. And I hope you have an amazing night and know that somebody is standing for you, praying for you, and you got this, okay? Have a great night, guys. We'll see you next Monday right here, 9 p.m. on Insta.